The trial and error method works really well for some people, especially those who like puzzles or working with numbers. It does involve guessing though, and some people just don't like the guessing part of the trial and error method. So for those of you who don't like the guessing part, I've got two alternative methods for you. They actually are very similar and start the same way, but the way you show the work in the middle is a little different. One is called the AC box method, one is called the AC shortcut method. So for these two methods, you start the same way. They're both called AC for a reason. The AC refers to the leading coefficient A in your trinomial and the last coefficient, or the constant term, C. The idea and why we say AC is that we are going to multiply A and C together. So A times C is how we start the process. So it's best to see an example. In this example down below, 10y squared minus 11y minus 6, we're going to take the 10, which is A, and multiply it by the C value, which is negative 6. So A and C, multiply those two together and you get a bigger number, negative 60. So one price you pay for not guessing is you have to work with a bigger number than actually appears in the trinomial. So we start with a negative 60, which is the AC. Now we're going to find a pair of factors of that negative 60 that add up to the middle coefficient, which is negative 11 in this case. So we want to add up to B. So let's just factor negative 60. Because it is a negative 60, we need one negative. So negative 1 and positive 60, negative 2 and 30. I'm just going to run through all the options. Negative 3 and 15. Oops, 15 is wrong. I'm jumping ahead in my brain. Negative 3 and 20. Negative 4 and 15. Negative 5 and 12. And negative 6 and 10. If I try 7, 8, and 9, they won't factor into 60, and that loops me back around to 10. So these are all the factors of negative 60. When you go to add those factors up, those pairs, the only one that's going to give you close to what you want is this negative 4 and 15. It's going to give you a positive 11 when you sum it up. We wanted a negative 11 though. Remember, the fix to the right value but the wrong sign is change your signs. Instead of using a negative 4, use a positive 4 and a negative 15, and that would give me a negative 11. So I'm going to use positive 4 and negative 15 to factor this trinomial. But here's the trick. Using the AC method, I don't just plug those in directly, because remember, positive 4 and negative 15 are factors of negative 60. Negative 60 is not actually in this trinomial. We're going to have to do something else to these two factors before they become part of my answer. So eventually I want an answer that looks like this, but 4 and 15 don't go in directly. That's where the middle work comes up. So we've got two ways of doing it, the box method and the shortcut method. I'll show each one individually. Let's use the AC box method first. We have our example, 10y squared minus 11y minus 6. We were looking at that before. AC would be 10 times negative 6, which is negative 60. We factored that earlier and found that we wanted to use a positive 4 and a negative 15 to represent that B value of negative 11y. Now, how the box method works is we're going to take the first and the last terms and put it in a box. So we're going to just draw a quick box with 4 entries. We're going to put the leading term, 10y squared, in the first location of this box, the upper left. We're going to put the last term, that negative 6, in the lower right corner of the box. What we put in the other two places are these factors we had. And I'm going to put them in kind of left and right just as they are. It doesn't really matter which one goes where. But the thing about these two factors is that because they represent the middle term, negative 11y, we need to put them in with a y. So I'm going to put a positive 4y in to this bottom right left location and a negative 15y into the top right location. So these go into these locations. Now, what you do with the box is it's basically a way to organize factoring by grouping, because what we're going to do is take these first two terms that are in the upper part of the box, we're going to factor out whatever is common. So we're only looking at these two that I've underlined in green. 10y squared minus 15y. They have a 5 in common and a y in common. Now, what we do is once we know that that is the common factor, we pull out that 5y, and whatever we would get left, we put up above the box. So 10y squared divided by 5y is 2y. Negative 15y divided by 5y is negative 3. Make sure you put the sign up there. Now we move down to the row we haven't worked with yet, 4y minus 6, and we repeat the process. To the left, we think about what these have in common. 4y and 6 have a 2 in common, specifically a positive 2. So I'm going to pull that positive 2 out. 4y divided by 2, and if I've done this right, I should get exactly what I had before. If I pull that out, I get a 2y. Perfect. Negative 6 divided by positive 2, if I pull that out, I get that positive 3. So if you've done this process right, you should get out, when you pull them out, exactly what you did in the top row. Our answer for this factorization is going to be what we see on the outside of the box. These two values on the left side of the box are going to be our first binomial in our answer, and the ones up above would be our second binomial. Technically, it doesn't matter which one you write first or second, but each location, the left and the top, represents a binomial in our answer. Last step, always check to make sure you didn't make a mistake. So FOIL this out. 5y times 2y is 10y squared. Outside terms would be negative 15y. Inside terms would be positive 4y. Last terms would be negative 6. Collect like terms, 10y squared minus 9y minus 6. Oops, I added wrong. Negative 15 plus 4 is negative 11. Always check as you go, be careful, and that does match what I had. So this is my result with using the AC box method. In the AC shortcut method, we still use A and C. So in this example, 10 times negative 6 gives us negative 60. We still factor like we did before. We've done this already, so remember we found that positive 4 and negative 15 give us the middle term of negative 11. So I'm not going to repeat all of the process here. We're going to use 4 and negative 15. But instead of putting those into a box, what we're going to do is write them as fractions using the A term. So we're going to write 4 over A, negative 15 over A. And then what we do is just simplify those numeric fractions. When we simplify the first one, 4 over 10 becomes 2 over 5. And it turns out this simplified fraction becomes the values we put into one of the binomials of our answer. But you put them in the following way. The denominator always comes first with the variable, 5y, and then positive 2. And the numerator, as I just wrote, comes in second. So 5y plus 2 is what we write into our first binomial. Simplify the other fraction, negative 15 over 10 has a 5 in common, so negative 3 over 2. A hint, always use the negative in the numerator because that will make it be a negative in the second term. So here, when I pull this back to our binomial, again, the denominator goes first, 2y minus 3. That is exactly what we had using the box method, but instead of using a box, we just use simplified fractions to figure out what the numbers are. Don't forget, always check. 5y times 2y is 10y squared. Outside terms is negative 15y. Inside terms is positive 4y. Last terms are negative 6. Collecting like terms, 10y squared minus 11y minus 6. That's exactly where we started. So that's our answer. So we've got the box method and the shortcut method. Both use the AC product. It just depends on how you want to show your work with those two factors you get from the A and C. You can either show that with a fraction or you can show it with a box. Box is often for visual people. The fractions are for people who like numbers.